Many of our founding fathers deserve credit for initiating independence. However, no others deserve as much credit as George Washington. While many were committing treason by affixing their names to a Declaration of Independence, our first commander-in-chief was placing himself in immediately dangerous by agreeing to lead the much maligned Confederate army. George Washington used his leadership abilities to help the Confederate army survive the season of Revolutionary War and loss give the Congress as a Philadelphia led the chance to construct the government that would run the newly formed United States of America for now over 200 years. The first major engagement between the two main armies came in New York as a British rigger under command of William Howe, with the help of his brother Admiral Hull, and a fleet of British warships attempted to reinforce independent America and seek revenge for the tremendous loss as Brits now referred to as the Bunker Hill. Here were as a scantily equipped group of the makeshift soldiers suddenly drove British force into the retreat until its retake. Army ran out of ammunition and were forced to pack their muskets with rockets and fought hand to hand. The British retributions at this later Battle of Long Island is what ultimately convinced George Washington that he would have to simply survive the battle rather than win them in order to be victorious in the war. The British Masonic confidence should also be mentioned here as an aid to Washington's great ability to slip away from the British stronghold. It was the consistent way of the British to wait until the next day to finish off the battle that allowed Washington to slip the Continental Army of New York under the cover of night and fog to fight another day. Although Washington decided to avoid all major conflicts between the two major adversary armies, he still had to maintain the morale of his soldiers, who rarely received pay and always had to fight with the elements as well the enemy because of the lack of funds to pay for proper clothing, shoes, and equipment. Famous writer Thomas Paine summarized the plain lines of the army as the times that tried men's souls, as well as the type of soldier needed to participate in this kind of war in his American crisis papers. Later, Washington would have these words read to his remnant of an army that was led at Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. The overly confidential British had just settled into their winter quarters in New York, leaving freshly conquered New York in the hands of the retreating army from the Russia-German, known as the Hessians. Washington picked his time for the surprise attack. His victories on Christmas Day carried his troops through the long winter. General Washington committed his troops to crossing the icy Delaware River in the middle of the night as depicted in the famous painting by the Emmanuel Lauter in 1851, and the recent A&E movie The Crossing. This crossing was daring enough, but the troops still helped much to Trompton, New Jersey. In the snow of many of land without shoes, which left bloody trails that could be easily followed, detected by the Hessian scouts. Washington's gamble paid off even after arriving a little later than expected next morning. The Hessians who had been patrolling all night were caught completely off the ground and surrendered, with the Americans not losing a single man in the ensuing battle. Now finished, George Washington used another tricky counter move to defeat British regulars, who had come to retaliate against the Americans few days later to Princeton. Washington had correctly counted on the British general hesitating when he arrived. Sure enough, the British waiting to attack the next morning were flanked by the American troops who had left fire burning to give the appearance of being camped out as they moved completely around the British troops. Washington survived yet another year and should soon, with the help of his other commanders, wear down the British into submission. In 1777, Washington's army should suffer another defeat, yes, another escape as well at the bottom of the Baldwin Creek, that allowed him to continue the war effort. With the major Northern victories and the surrender of British forces under General John Burgoyne's Burgoyne at Saratoga, they convinced the French to sign with the Americans in the next year. The stage was set for another decision by George Washington that would lead to the end of the war. General Washington saw a chance to defeat Cornwallis and commanded the main British force up north. He abandoned his design for New York and together with a French force headed it south to trap Cornwallis at Yorktown, Virginia. Arriving early, Washington pulled out his old bag of tricks, convinced General Cornwallis that the Americans had many more troops than they actually had. He ordered his men to surround Cornwallis with campfires, knowing that as this British general will never order his men into battle against a much larger force. This gave another American commander a chance to bring in their troops and allowed the French fleet of ships time to trap Cornwallis, which eventually brought about an end to the war and led to independence for the United States of America. George Washington probably wasn't the best field tacticians in battle, but did combine a sound strategy of doing just enough in the war to hold his army together and give them to confidence they needed to fight another day. If the Continental Army would have captured the force into the surrounded, or being eliminated due to desertion, America will still most likely have the colonel's status at the best. It's largely due to George Washington's heroism, as well as his everyday command of his troops, that allowed the rest of our founding fathers to create the United States of America.